three-peat, maybe even four-peat DePIN Day speaker, David Vorick of Glow, who first spoke at DePIN Day a year ago at ETH Denver. So it was part of the inaugural cohort of speakers. So I can tell he's got the deep Glow team packing the audience here. So I'm expecting a good welcome for David. So welcome, David.
Cool. So thank you everyone for coming. Glow has been live for 14 months, which is crazy. And we're in the middle of a transition from Glow v1 to Glow v2. So I wanted to give a talk today about everything that we learned from Glow v1 and how that is shaping Glow v2. But before we get into it, quick background about me. I'm David Vorick. I've been in crypto for 14 years. My first big crypto project was Sia, or Sia Coin. We took that from a 10K market cap to a $3 billion market cap. And then in 2022, joined the founding team of Glow. It was right after the FTX crash, which was like a terrible time to start a crypto startup. But we were super motivated and we said, better late than never. So we jumped in. And one of the guiding principles that I learned at Sia and that we really lived by and continue to live by at Glow is that innovation has to happen in the real world. And so crypto is often a lot of like design and theory and economics, and you get in your head and it's all theory and you're like limited by your own imagination. And reality is like so much bigger and wilder and more insane than anything you can imagine. The only way to truly be an innovator is to put things into the real world. So with Glow, we did that. Work started seriously around February 2023. 10 months later, we built like this big theory and we thought of something that we knew would work pretty well, but we also knew had like gaps. And we were like, the best way to learn is just put it out in the wild. So December 2023, we put Glow out into the wild. It's been live for 14 months. It has not had any upgrades. So we're running the same exact code that we started 14 months ago, and there have been no major issues, but there have been lots of lessons learned and lots of surprises. So I'm here today to walk through what we figured out. And so something that the core team knew at the beginning was that people like tokens. Investors seemed very skeptical, and I think every single investor conversation I had, like over 100 of them, the primary feedback was there's no way in hell any solar farm is ever going to construct for Glow just to receive tokens at the end. But like people built Bitcoin miners, which do literally nothing. Like it's a lot of work and it's crazy chaotic and they do nothing. And they did that for tokens. So like, why not solar too? And the truth is we had like several conversations where we would go to a prospective like homeowner. We'd say, hey, do you want to build solar? And they would be like, absolutely not. I don't care if it saves you money. Like solar is ugly and I'm not interested at all. And we'd be like, but wait, you might get tokens. And then suddenly they're like interested and they like signed up and they don't know what the token is or how many they're going to get or like what the market cap is or who owns them. They're just like, oh, tokens. Yeah, okay. Put solar on my roof. Go for it. So that was like squarely squashed all of the doubt that we received early on. The second big thing that caught me by surprise, and I think caught almost everyone by surprise, is where the innovation happened. My screen is fine. So in the Bitcoin world, all of the innovation was in engineering. It started with CPUs and then GPUs and then people started doing a bunch of hardware optimizations. And so I thought that when we launched Glow, the main source of innovation in the Glow ecosystem was going to be engineering, and we're going to find like alien ways to build solar farms really quick and really cheap and just get it all done. But it actually turns out that like in the Bitcoin world, the engineering was the main bottleneck, electrical engineering. But in the solar world, the main bottleneck is financing. And so almost all of the iteration and innovation that's happened in Glow has been financial. And so Glow has these like very alien financial engineering structures. And so if you come to me and you're like, I want to build a big solar farm, what's that look like? You're going to get like a 15-page PDF with all of these crazy optimizations in it. And it's going to feel very weird. But the truth is, all of those optimizations allow Glow to be significantly more capital efficient than how it was at the very beginning when people were just building solar farms and throwing them onto the protocol. And so that was surprising to us. We thought that innovation would be engineering rather than financial. Another thing that I think some people understood better than others, I don't think it's that surprising in the grand scheme of things, but it's still like a lesson that was learned very sharply, is that each time you step up in order of magnitude in the solar world, the costs get so much more competitive that everything smaller just gets totally crushed. And so right now, the biggest solar farm on Glow is 16 megawatts. It's by far dominating everything. And if a 100 megawatt solar farm shows up, that 100 megawatt solar farm is probably going to crush the 16 megawatt solar farm. And that can sound very scary if you're building like, say, another 16 megawatt solar farm. But the truth is, it doesn't matter because all of the solar farms are getting tokens. And when the new solar farm comes in and crushes everyone, the tokens get a lot more valuable. And I promise you that like when the token today is trading at $3, the people who made 100,000 tokens on their $20,000 solar farm that doesn't make any money anymore, they're happy with their 100,000 tokens. And so it's a system that works, but it's surprising just how effectively each level of scale just destroys everything behind it and like stops growth. Another thing that we learned is that carbon credits are not sexy. So Glow V1 is a very, I would say exclusively carbon credit-centric protocol. And we chose that path because in the voluntary market, carbon credits is like $2 to $20 billion a year, which is a very big number. In the international markets or the compliance markets, it's $1 trillion a year. And we were like, we can make carbon credits better than anyone else. That was our theory. And then we can go and sell those carbon credits. It's going to be awesome. And it's kind of awesome. And Glow V1 does work. It's really good at producing carbon credits. I do think it produces some of the like highest quality carbon credits in the world. But when you're selling them, it's just like a really sucky conversation. It's like, hey, you're a terrible person and a terrible business and you're killing the economy. And if you pay me some money, maybe you can sleep better at night. And it's just not a fun conversation. Even when you like get the money and you make the sale, it's not a fun conversation. And then oftentimes people are like, oh, but isn't the carbon credit industry like entirely scams? And you're like, well, let me go and look for the good actors. And it's like, not really. It is basically a long history of a bunch of big scams, and even the big players today and the names that everyone knows just have tons of scandals. And just the general emotion of the carbon credit buyer, if someone's trying to like fix the climate, they just feel exhausted and defeated, and it looks like an impossible challenge. And so making Glow V1 super carbon credit centric was just inherently like a not sexy business. And that doesn't mean that it's not profitable, but we would rather be in a sexy business, which it turns out that solar farms are super sexy. They create energy, they create guilt-free energy, and you can do awesome things with them like AI, and you can power hospitals. And basically, when you say like drill baby drill, people want to throw up and curl in a ball and die. Or when you say like print baby print and you're talking about tokens or like the US economy, they also want to die. But when you say print baby print and you're talking about solar panels, everyone's like, yeah! And they get really excited. And so being a solar-centric protocol has been just like, it's a lot more fun to make the sale. The dollar numbers tend to be bigger. People can get behind building massive fields of solar in a way that they don't get excited about buying the carbon credits from massive fields of solar. And so Glow V2 is taking that and pivoting to being solar-centric. And then the other thing that we really learned, especially as we started talking to governments, is that a lot of times they want solar, but the top concern is not climate-related. It's like, for example, Germany has an energy dependency on Russia, and that's a really painful thing for them. They want solar not because they care about the climate. Like, Germany does care about the climate, but really, they want to solve their dependency on Russia. Or like Sudan has a bunch of hospitals on an unstable grid, and those hospitals often don't have electricity, and that's really bad if you're trying to keep people alive. And so, like, there are climate benefits, but really, like in Sudan, the problem that they want solved is they want their hospitals to run 24/7. And you can do that with some solar farms and a battery for a lot cheaper than you can build like a grid line and a coal power plant and whatever. And so Glow V2 is really like embraced the idea that solar farms do a lot more than climate. And so Glow V2 has shifted to focus not just on climate alone, but to have climate and then also be able to do all these other things as well. So to kind of go over the limits, that when we took our theoretically like a design we were very happy with and thought would perform very well and put Glow V1 into the wild, the things that we learned and took away from it is that like the big surprises were, one, all of the innovation is financial and is in how things get financed and where the money goes and how to be capital efficient rather than engineering optimization. And then Glow V1 was super focused on carbon credits, which is just not a super sexy place to be. And then finally, the economies of scale bit meant that Glow V1 was really only accessible to the most elite players. And so if you're, not living in a mansion and you have $50 million in your bank account, you're probably not earning Glow tokens from solar farms today on Glow V1. But on Glow V2, we kind of restructured everything. And so Glow V1 was not expecting financial innovation to be a key thing. And so it's actually not that easy to financially innovate around. Glow V2 is a lot more flexible in how you can financially optimize and have portfolios that make sense and do like very creative gymnastics sort of things. And it's a lot more efficient in a lot more contexts. And then the biggest thing I would say is that Glow V2 is solar-centric rather than carbon credit-centric. And it's about, one way I would think about Glow is like as a big gun that just, you point it at a place and you pull the trigger and it just shoots tons of solar farms into that location. And Glow V1, the gun was exclusively pointed at places that could produce lots of carbon credits. And Glow V2 actually gives users the flexibility to like steer the gun themselves and say, I want to point this at Sudan. I want to build hospitals in Sudan, or I want to put solar on hospitals in Sudan. And then finally, the structure of Glow V2 makes it a lot more accessible for people who only have, say, $5 to spend. And so you can contribute to the Glow V2 protocol in a way regulators permitting, so that, pending. It is our goal to make it able for people to be able to participate with like $5 instead of $50 million checks. So the biggest takeaways is that Glow V1, The theory was really beautiful, and it worked surprisingly well, and it worked for 14 months. It's still working, but reality is unpredictable, and we got hit with a lot of surprises when we started operating in the wild. And GlowV2 is really built from all of the lessons that we learned being in the wild, being on the ground, like getting, just reality is tough, and that's the best place to learn. And so as my final takeaway for this presentation, I would say it's more important to be learning than to be correct, and don't be afraid of failure. Anything you put into the wild is going to have surprising shortcomings that you weren't expecting. Be afraid of stagnation. And so if you're not growing and learning and adapting, that's where you're not going to be successful. And that is the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.